Hey everybody, it's your boy labbearome, the disabled fragrance guy, and I'm back for another review. Do me a favor if you haven't done so already, please go down below, like and subscribe to the channel. While you're down there, please hit that notification bell so you'll be notified about every time I drop a video to YouTube. I want to thank you for rocking with me so far. Let's continue the journey this week with a fragrance that is throwing me back to the 90s. So I got an email not so long ago from a company called Jivago. Now I have never heard of this company before, but they reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to review one of their fragrances. I said yes, of course. They sent it through for my review. So today I'm going to be reviewing Jivago and 24K for men. Alright, so I couldn't really find the year that 24K for men came out, so if I do find that, I will leave that somewhere over here. But the nose behind the fragrance is Ileana Jivago. In the notes, we have from the top, coriander, in the mid, cardamom, and in the base, vetiver, sandalwood, and amber. So a pretty simple note breakdown for 24K. Sizes and prices, you can get this 100ml bottle of 24K from Jivago for $150 USD. Now let's go over the presentation. The presentation is absolutely, I love the presentation. This is so vintage. This is so vintage 90s to me. I mean, I love this bottle. You know, it's just cool. It's got the horseshoe design, the two horses on the front. Could this have been Parfums de Marly before Parfums de Marly was Parfums de Marly? I don't know, but it reminds me of just this whole horseshoe design here. This is a plastic cap. This is nothing special. You got the gold embellishments here. In the bottle, you will see if I shake it up, these are 100% real 24 karat gold flakes. This bottle reminds me of a bottle of Goldschlager. If you are old enough to remember Goldschlager back in the day, this reminds me of Goldschlager. I'm not gonna drink it, but you know, hey, this is 90s to the core, and I'm absolutely here for it. I love when fragrances and presentations throw me back to days and times when I know that I had fun. So I love the presentation of the bottle from Jivago. And the box says, the unforgettable golden fragrance, attractive masculine scent infused with aphrodisiacs, coriander, and cardamom. Aphrodisiacs, you say? Well, if you're advertising it on the box, I'm gonna wear it in certain situations, and we'll see if that actually comes true. I'm not going to give you an update on that because y'all don't need to know about that, but if it actually is infused with aphrodisiacs, y'all are going to see a big smile on my face come the next review. So how does it smell? You're here for that. I'm here for that too. Let's give it a whirl. It is my scent of the day. I'm going to give you a fresh spray on the hand so I can remind myself of the opening. The atomizer is not great. It's an atomizer. It's average. So what you're gonna get is a slightly fresh, slightly spicy, slightly sporty type of scent. I absolutely believe that this could be someone's beginner fragrance. If you're just beginning your fragrance journey, I think Jivago might be a fragrance that you might wanna look into. It harkens back to, for me, the days of the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s when I was just getting into fragrances. I was wearing a lot of Ralph Lauren Polo, I was wearing a lot of Curve, I was wearing a lot of Aspen. I wore about 5 bottles worth of Aspen, I'm not gonna lie. So that 24K reminds me of those types of fragrances. If you remember the powerhouse fragrances of the late 80s, early 90s, this certainly is in that vein. I absolutely also believe that while a beginner in the fragrance game could wear this fragrance, a more seasoned person, a more seasoned gentleman, aka someone in their 50s, 60s, 70s, might also like this fragrance because it harkens back to a generation of older, stately, when you actually wore a suit to go to work, suit on Sundays type of thing. So I do believe that an older generation might pick up on this fragrance a lot quicker than a younger person might. Is it unforgettable? I don't think it's unforgettable. I think it will get lost in the vast community of fragrances that we go through. For me, as a content creator and for a person like myself who has many different fragrances in his collection, am I going to pull for this? Yeah, maybe just to remind myself of the nostalgic era that I used to belong to in the late 80s and early 90s. If I want a nice reminder of, where I've come from and where I am now, yeah, I might pull for it for nostalgia's sake. But am I going to pull for this going to work? Am I going to pull for this going to a function? I don't think I will. I just think for me, personally, I can only speak for myself, that it may be a little bit too dated for what I do in my personal life right now. So am I gonna pull for it? Perhaps around the house, but I don't think I would pull for it around the office or going to a function or things like that, where I'm around a group of people. I have many other offerings that I would look to before I look to Jivago. Not saying that it's a bad fragrance, it's not a bad fragrance, but I think that it is certainly something that I would not pull for on a regular basis. It's been about a half hour since I first applied this fragrance. I gave you a fresh spray on the hand at the beginning of the review, but I have worn this for about a half hour now, and the vetiver and the sandalwood are starting to come out. I expect from a sandalwood note for the fragrance to be creamy in some way. I'm not getting that. I am getting more of the vetiver than I am the sandalwood. And I only get a little tiny bit of the amber. I think this is more of a coriander, cardamom, vetiver fragrance on my skin. I don't get the amber, and I'm not really getting the smoothness of the sandalwood, which actually kind of plays into the powerhouse fragrances of the 80s and 90s. They weren't smooth. They were not smooth at all. They kind of punched you in the face. And that's what I'm kind of getting from this. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but it's not as smooth as I like these days. It's kind of rough around the edges, and that's what I would expect from a fragrance that comes from this genre, this era. Performance for 24K stands at a solid 6.5 hours. It doesn't last a terribly long time. It never really becomes a skin scent on my skin. However, it doesn't really project either. It kind of just stays linear and stays in a bubble on my skin. I didn't get any compliments wearing this fragrance. My wife didn't really compliment me. It's just an okay fragrance for me. It harkens back to the late 80s, early 90s. Like I said, it gives me that nostalgic feeling, which I kind of like because those were my glory days. I loved the 80s and 90s. That's when I was in elementary, junior high, high school. Those days were the best days for me. So for a reminiscent type of sake, for something that gives me good memories, I'm absolutely pleased with the fragrance, even though the fragrance itself is kind of not something that I'm used to and not something that I particularly prefer at this point in my journey. The memories associated with the fragrance, the era associated with this fragrance is something that I do treasure. If you are interested in experiencing 24K, I will leave some links in the description below for you to get a sample or get a full bottle. I want to thank Jivago and Ileana Jivago for providing this bottle for my review. As you guys know, all opinions are my own. I will never give a favorable review just because I get product. That is my time. Thank you so much for your attention. Go down below, like and subscribe, and I'll check you next time.